Okay, as discussed, we're gonna do inside and outside miters where sidewall and headwall flashings come together along with your counter flash. And so as we've discussed in the previous two videos for sidewall and headwall, the sidewall flashing is installed first. It was tabbed up and tabbed around the corner, so we have a nice area of sealant, a place to put your sealant between your sidewall and your headwall flashings. Then your headwall flashing is lined up and you miter that off at 45 degrees to the outside corner. Put a nice big thick bed of sealant in there, and then that gets installed. You might have a little bit of gapping here, so at the end you can just come through and run another bead, tool in a bead and get some more sealant in that lap, just to tighten it up just a little bit. So then the counter flashing is similar to the sidewall. Your sidewall counter, we've just turned and tabbed around the corner. And so when that is installed, we engage the 4-inch lap. We put that in place right like there. We have the tabs, and that allows for sealant in there so that we can get a nice tight seal. Let me go ahead and butyl tape. Butyl tape still on the back side. Exposed fasteners, self-sealing fasteners for attachment. Once again, do not overdrive your washers. You want to get a good seal, but don't overcompress the neoprene. Okay, so you've tabbed your sidewall counter flashing. You're gonna put a bead of sealant in there. Nice heavy bead. You can fill all that up. Run a bead in there. Then we come through with our headwall counter flashing. It's been mitered out, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we're ready to position that, so that just goes in place. It does have butyl tape on it, the 3/16 butyl tape. Set in place like that. That gives you a nice miter there. You'll just add additional sealant on the outside, and you can tool that in. And then we attach with self-sealing fasteners. Remember not to overdrive or compress the neoprene. Okay. And so that is an inside miter for sidewall and headwall flashings. Now, when we were talking about our mitering, typically you have a height here. Whatever the difference is in your height to the top of the counter flash, that's going to determine on an inside corner how far in you come in to make your miter. So on this piece here, when we're at, say, it's a 1-inch depth, then we're gonna come in 1 inch to create that miter. And that's what you cut out to get those pieces to come together. So now we are at our outside corner mock-up. And so a few things to take into consideration. Remember, your underlayment turns up the wall 3 inches. This should not be the same piece. You don't just cut it down. You got to make sure this piece runs over and tabs up, and then you have a piece running, turning up the wall, coming down, and turn the corner so that we're nice and bulletproof with our underlayment on the outside corner. Once again, you always work low to high. So we've positioned these Z closures based off of our headwall detail. We've set our headwall detail and we've marked that up here for that location. But what you want to know is, remember, is that you have to extend this out to account for the thickness for the sidewall depth. And so you're measuring that out, but then you come back 1 inch to account for the miter of your Z closure as well. And now we'll put on the sidewall Z closure. But you tab this up for correct water lap. So we have our sidewall Z closure installed now with the 3/16 by 7/8 inch butyl tape tested 4 inches on center. And you can see we've overlapped that tab from our head wall flashing. So now we can put on, working low to high, we put on the head wall flashing. You should also go ahead and put a bead of sealant inside of here, just like you would when you seal up and over panel ribs. You want to go ahead and add a bead of sealant on the inside of your Z closure here. Now we put on our head wall flashing, and basically we've measured over the distance of our sidewall, and we leave that in place, and then we come back and we cut that off, and we turn a tab up the roof on our vertical portion of the flashing. Once again, we've set it in the 3/16 by 7/8 inch butyl. We're attaching it 16 inches on center. And so that would just engage onto your Z closures after everything's sealed in. And we attach that to the wall just like that. Now our sidewall flashing is a clean cut 45 degrees on your horizontal portion of the flashing. And you would set it in place and mark your angle for the wall. So we have the angle of the wall and the 45 coming out over onto the head wall. That will engage onto the Z closure. We get a nice clean miter. Of course, you would set this in sealant in here, and then place the sidewall flashing over the sealant. So we're gonna set in 3/16 by 7/8 inch butyl tape and attach at 16 inches on center. Just like that. Okay, so now that head wall, sidewall's on, we're now going to put on the counter flashing. Remember, we did rivet this 18 inches on center, and that's how you tighten this up, is with your rivet attachment. So now we got a nice tight seam there. There should be sealant in that lap. We did not show that. So back again to the counter flashing. We've come out 1 inch from where we're positioning our corner. And that 1 inch is due to the depth of our counter flashing. We're 1 inch deep, so now we come out 1 inch, and we angle back to zero, and that's where your wall is. This gets set in the 3/16 by 7/8 inch butyl tape and attached at 24 inches on center maximum. And you can see we've left the tabs. You leave the tabs to get around the corner. Once again, don't overdrive your washers. Normal compression, you don't want to mushroom out or burn out the neoprene washer. Now you can apply sealant to here, and we'll put on the sidewall counter. The tricky thing about sidewall counters and outside miter corners is the pitch of the roof. Depending on how steep the roof is, you're pulling your angle, so that changes the dimensions of your flashings. If all your counter flashing is the same dimension, then it's not gonna line up exact because your angles are just a little bit off. So you will have to make accounts for the pitch change, and we've added tabs. We've come back. You basically put a piece of counter flash up here and trace how your head wall counter lines up on the back side of your sidewall counter. And then once you trace that, then you can cut it to profile, and you might want to leave a little extra tabs to get around that corner. so that when it's all said and done, we're close. You can see we're off a little bit here, and that's because of the angle of the pitch of the roof. Unless you make two different types of counter flashing, you'll have to make accommodations. I'll go ahead and get this installed. Okay, now we have that screwed down. We've gotten a lot tighter compression around the actual miter itself. So that finishes out an outside corner. Please refer to the actual sidewall detail and headwall detail for the rest of the installation components. And please visit sheffieldmetals.com to look at those details or to look at any other detail in our installation manual. Thank you.